Is there any place for me? I was starting to feel that church wasn't for me. I was told I could find someone who loves me for me no matter what. And when I got there, all I found were people who didn't want me there.
It's compassion. Compassion is not just a word, it's an experience. It's what people feel when they enter the building. It's the love of God extended. Um, you know, and I don't think that folks intend for it to be that way. I think we are just caught up in, what we're used to, tradition. We go to church every Sunday. We have our certain people we engage with. We have our certain sides of the sanctuary we sit on. And it becomes a routine. And when people who come into the church who are not familiar with church tradition or religion, and they come in and they're looking for compassion, they're looking to feel something or experience something that can lift their spirits or cause them to feel accepted or welcome, it's not always available. And so I've gone to churches and um, walked in and didn't feel welcome. No one greeted me. No one said welcome, and no one, extended fellowship. Even to the point where someone even said we were sitting in their seat that they sit in every Sunday. And so I think compassion and the visible love of Christ when you walk through the doors.
Understanding the intersectionality of all of our identities, which is a complex thing to do. However, attempting to understand all of our identities and allowing God to shape and mold and run through all of our identities. And what does that look like for us as individuals? What does that look like for us when we come together as a community? We are the sum of many parts, and diversity and being inclusive represents the many parts of us. Again, the intersectionality of all of our identities. And what does that look like in your relationship with God? Understanding that your identity is on a spectrum, right? How you identify at 23 may not be how you identify at 40, which may not be how you identify at 45. But understanding that God is fluid, so that diversity and that inclusiveness, he can flow through all of those identities.
It's not a box. Again, I'm a visual person. So when we make something exclusive, we're essentially saying that thing is a box and you can't enter into this box. There's no space for you. There's no room for you. You can't come in here. But when we say inclusive, we remove ourselves from the confines and the constraints of a box, and it's open for everybody. There is no defined place. There's no defined thought. It's just open. So that would be my thought when I say inclusive.
I think it has come to a point where it's an ask, don't ask, don't tell situation. I believe that the reason why people my age, like, with millennials, the reason why they don't go to church a lot is because of the judgment that is brought upon their lives, or even it's less family oriented sometimes, from people that I hear that go to certain churches, whether they're big or small. Sometimes they don't feel a sense of being accepted and being able to be themselves fully. And I think a lot of things that they miss too is that connection with their pastor.
I'll say faith and belief, because like somebody can go through something and they can go to church, but once they go through a hard experience, their faith and belief already automatically loses, or it stays depending on the situation. So I'll just say faith and belief is what the church is starting to lose.
Ministers today are more involved into money, finances, and preaching the wrong word to our younger generation, where they feel that if they do a certain thing, or if they pray to God tonight, well, God, can you give me this tomorrow? That God is going to answer like that. And if they give a certain amount to the church, that God is going to respond immediately, and it doesn't work like that. I think a lot of false pretense, and I think we need to reach more out to our community, and that's not happening like it used to be. So.
But Marquita, she puts her heart into not wanting people to feel left out. Not making sure that all people are always feeling included in what it is that we're trying to do. So whether it be functions for young people or old people, she puts her heart into making sure that everybody is included in whatever it is that we're doing. And she puts her heart into that, and she never wants anything in return. Even when it comes to financial blessing or financially blessing people, she just makes sure that people know that she doesn't want anything in return.
I remember when I was 15 years old, I had a terrible first experience at my first homecoming dance. And I went home and I didn't tell her anything, but she knew, as I guess a mother would. And the next morning, I was planning on that Saturday just staying in my bed and wallowing in my self-pity. But she got me up and she took me to breakfast. And that was the day I realized how beautiful and how brave I could be, because my mother was there to pick me back up when I felt broken away.
And maybe God spoke to her. But at that time, I was transitioning jobs and was a little overwhelmed financially. And for whatever reason, she felt it in her heart to bless me with half of what she wanted, which meant more to me than anything. Not because it was financial, but because she saw a need there, or she heard, and she was just obedient to God. And that's the kind of woman that she is. She's obedient.
We belong to a small congregation. It's a world church, but our congregation is a small congregation. And everything that is done for that congregation, because there was a period in our history where the three women that were in leadership did all the work. We taught, we cooked and cleaned in the kitchen, we cleaned the church, we did it all. And Marquita was forever the servant, and she did it without any expectation. I don't think she has an expectation for anything that she does for anybody. Her only expectation is pleasing God. So the things that she does them because that's what God would have her to do. It's true and it's genuine. There's no expectation of anything.
So, a few years ago, I know she'll laugh at this, but I had I think it was I had an issue with my car, and I think I needed a battery or I needed something, a part, and at the time I didn't have the money to get it, and I needed the car. My car was my at the time my job. I was driving. I think I was doing Uber, or I was driving for a living. Long story short, I called her and told her I needed this battery. I needed it, and I told her what the situation was, and she was like, no problem, and took care of it for me. And that was just a small example of just being ready and being able to be a blessing. And I think that's the other word that I think would come to mind is she's a blessing. She's a blessing. And so it's a wonderful thing when you can be a blessing for other people. And she's been there for me in a number of ways.
When she talks to you from her heart, or tells you something that you need to hear, a prophetic word, or a word where she just makes you laugh, to me, that's her gift. Her gift is talking. Her gift is her gift for gab.
Amazing, inspirational, heartwarming. She has a warm heart. She is a person who cares about
people. She has a heart for God. Yeah, she's just a really an encourager, you know. That's Marquita.
Love, peace, inclusive, but I didn't really want to say inclusive. I'm more of a image type of person, so if you can imagine a hug that encompasses, that just doesn't hold back, and she's that hugger, you know. She is that person that hugs and accepts.
You know, most people may think it was some kind of lightning bolt from the sky, but it wasn't. It was me. It was the first week we were sent home. I was sent home from work in relation to the pandemic, and I think it was like the second week of March. It's around the third week of March, that first week after I was at home. I was in my quiet time with God, and God said to me, just like I'm saying to you, I need you to start this ministry, and you're going to name it Inclusive. And that was the beginning, and gave me the name and the spelling of it is N-apostrophe C-L-U-S-I-V-E. And I didn't understand then why he gave me just Inclusive spelled that way. But I was sharing it with a coworker after God had given me the vision, and I was sharing it with her, and I'm going to say her name today. Her name is Henrietta Mason, and I was telling her this is what God wants me to do, and this is what he wants me to name the ministry. And she came back with the tagline, taking the I out of ministry.